hi everybody, I'm Jodie. I'm the bariatric specialist nurse at Salford Royal. So for some of you, it may be your first time here today, so welcome. The idea of these sessions is to make sure that you have somewhere where you can touch base with people who are either considering bariatric surgery or are waiting to have bariatric surgery. We do these sessions on the first Wednesday of every month, except for January, and it will be team members from our Tier 3 weight management services and predominantly from Salford, the surgeons, the medics, and myself, and the dietitians and psychologists and pharmacists and all the team that are part of making bariatric surgery happen. So tonight is really exciting. As always, I love this session. It's our patient experience night. So tonight there are people from our post-op support group joining us. Everyone will get something out of this evening, but they're going to join a Q&A session late after our main presentations. So don't worry, if anyone's there and you want to join that panel who's had surgery, we'll make sure that you can join in the Q&A shortly. And then we have Michelle and we have Hannah, who are both patients that have had surgery, and they're going to talk through their experience with us. So it's probably best, it's fine to chat amongst yourselves, but it's also quite nice to hear from their perspective what's happened for them with their surgery and the long delays and everything else that people have to endure at the moment. And just a final thing with the support group. This is provided by ABL, so they kindly facilitate this and the Zoom licenses and everything so that we can do our support groups. They don't actually have anything to do with bariatric surgery in the process. So if you're having any issues and you contact them directly, but you're not under their care as a Tier 3 weight management patient, they will just politely have to say, we can't help you with that. You need to go back to your provider, whether that be your Tier 3 weight management service or whether that be the bariatric team at Salford. Or the bariatric team at Huddersfield, as I know some of their patients. So that's enough from me. And without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Michelle. So thank you very much. The floor is yours.
Hi guys. Not done this before, but I've got a pad to read from, so I hope you don't mind that I am actually going to read from it. So my weight loss journey. I had a gastric bypass 11 months ago, November 21. I was 52 years old. I went for 12-month lessons in Manchester, but then my notes were lost and had to do a few more months. So I was well disappointed. I went to all the classes, hospital appointments, got them all signed off. Pre-op was the 23rd of March, 2019, which was the day of lockdown. So it didn't happen. Eventually, my health got worse. My knees were so bad I could barely walk. Shopping got delivered. My weight soared to 145.8 kilos, which is 23 stone. I was just a total mess. I couldn't move my neck left, right, up or down because it was that big. I snored badly, didn't sleep properly, sweated tremendously. I was in so much pain in my back and my legs. Let alone I have fibromyalgia, lupus, osteoarthritis, and I've had a total knee replacement. I've got atrial fibrillation, high blood pressure, acid reflux, plus a few more to add to the list. I eventually had to get a scooter just to get me out for some fresh air, especially to see my grandson, who is now 2.5 years old. I couldn't even sit him on my knee as my stomach was so big it covered my legs. Long story short, I eventually got to have my surgery after doing the liver reduction diet once already. And 2 days before the surgery, it got cancelled. Again, well disappointed. A week later, I got a call, and 6 days later, I was in surgery. I was so excited. I'd already met with the dietitians and surgeons to discuss which was best for me and why. We all agreed on the Roux why, especially because of my acid reflux and high blood pressure. 11 months later, which is today, I've lost 9 stone 6 pounds and I weigh 13 stone 8 pounds now. And although weight loss is now very slow, I already feel $1 million. I'm wearing clothes I could never buy from a shop or a store, as I was a size 30, and almost everything was black and dark coloured. Now I wear dresses and lovely tops, all colourful, and I don't have to pay for a fortune for them. I'm now about a size stroke 18, and probably over the next 12 months, I'll lose some more. I enjoy my food now more than ever, but I get full very quick. I choose carefully, eat slowly, the 20-20 rule. 20 pence piece size of food on your fork, 20 chews or more for each mouthful, and 20 minutes eating, then stop. But you'll find you don't quite get to 20 minutes because you're already full. Wind is really excessive, especially the burping. I never feel hungry, so I have to watch time and make sure I eat regularly. I keep food handy in the fridge to pick: grapes, berries, tomatoes. I love Chinese leaves and white cabbage, and you must always eat lots of protein. I've lost a lot of hair and I've had to have it all cut off. This is the downfall of the surgery. Eating out is really easy, actually. Just keep your focus on your protein, your veg, your salad. Eat your carbs last. I now have lots of loose skin, but I embrace it rather than hate it, as it is a reminder of my journey and not wanting to go back to how I was. But yes, I would love to have it removed as well. Going back to post-surgery, I had a liquid protein diet for 3 weeks, then mushy food for 3 weeks, and then introduced lumps like scrambled egg and beans, etc. I've only ever been sick once. That was at the very start of lumpy food. I've never had dumping syndrome, but I do find once I need to go to the toilet, I need to be near a toilet. I've got more energy in myself. I can't walk far because of my knees, though. That's the problem. Some of my tablets have also stopped for my IBS, my acid reflux, and one of them for high blood pressure. You will need to take a supplement tablet, A to Z vitamins, and iron tablets for the rest of your life, and vitamin B12 injections every 3 months, depending on which surgery you have. I have Forceval from the doctor and ferrous sulfate. My family have been very supportive. Now I've stopped snoring, my back stopped killing me, the sweating's improved, and the most important thing, I can sit my grandson on my knee, and that is priceless. Staff have been wonderful with me, and I can't thank them all enough. I'm able to call or email any of them anytime with any worries or just questions, and I get a call also to catch up on how things are going. So my start weight was 23 stone, and 11 months later, I'm now 13 stone 8. That's 9 stone, 6 pounds lost. I've been the doctors for years and years and years before I got to this point. Yo-yo dieted with every diet going. I'd lose weight and then put more on eventually. Always been a big girl, got bullied as a child. I went through all the psychologist meetings, went through the program with ABL Health for quite some time. Gained more weight over COVID, which was unfortunate, to be honest, because I think a lot of people did. My health got bad. I couldn't walk. I had surgery at Salford Royal. I was really focused, and I've stuck to it like glue. Hold on 1 second. The negatives. The most important one is hair loss for me. I used to have quite thick hair. It's very, very thin, fine. I know it's great at the moment. I'm having it coloured tomorrow. I used to have very long hair. Now it's very short. You've got your loose skin. You forget to eat as you don't feel hungry. You have to really watch the time. You have to have your vitamin B12 injections, your iron tablets, your vitamins, the excessive wind. I'm starting to feel the cold now where I never did before, and my tummy gurgles quite a bit. Positives, I can buy from Primark in the market. It's brilliant. I don't snore anymore. That's good for my husband. Easy to turn over in bed. I feel better in myself. I wore a bikini for the first time ever 4 weeks ago when I was in Tenerife. I feel like I've got a lot of self-achievement. I fit in a plane seat and the seat belt with the tray down, and that's never ever happened since I was a kid. I fit on fairground rides now, as I love them. I've not been able to go on them for over 5 years. My grandson sits on my knee. I look forward to a meal out now because I know just what I'm choosing. And if it's not on the menu, just ask somebody for what you want and they'll give it you. It's not a problem. And I can breathe so much better. And the aftercare is always there. and the staff have been brilliant, and I can't thank them enough for where I am today. Thank you.
Oh, Michelle, that was fantastic. I hope you can see what out the corner of your eye all the love and claps and cheers that are coming from the panel. And
is that what they are? Because I've not been on this before.
That's all for you, and you really deserve it. Honestly, it's such a long journey getting to bariatric surgery now, and you have done really, really well. I think it's so important that people hear from people that have had it, the downsides, the plus sides. It's a worthwhile journey, but it's not an easy one. So you're now is it 11 months post-op now?
Yes, I was November 21.
Okay, so just so everyone has a bit of an idea, with bariatric surgery, we would expect almost everybody to lose about 30 to 40% of their excess fat in those first 4 months. And then it slows right down. It's not instant. Some people, I describe people as shape shifting. So after surgery, you kind of notice that for your face and your neck, perhaps, maybe the way your clothes are fitting, and then you get on the scales and think, this doesn't seem to be as much as I thought. But it does come off, and it kind of comes off like stairs. So did you find that you were noticing it in your clothes and things, that sometimes you stand on the scales and wonder if it was quite as much as you thought?
Well, I was more or less quite the opposite. I didn't see it coming off, but the scales told me it was. So I thought, well, it must be. Then all of a sudden, I put one of my big T-shirts on, because I used to class them as tents, and it felt baggy, and it didn't cling to me. And I thought, oh, okay. But one thing I never did was scale watch. I made it just once a week, purely just once a week, because the temptation to stand on them scales every day, you just don't see it happening, you know, because you think, I've lost another pound today or something. But I had to stick to, you have to be really, really true to yourself and say, no, willpower is the most thing. But I actually found it quite easy losing the weight as well, because I was so focused on it working. It had to work. After everything I'd been through, it couldn't fail. So, and because you feel full even on the liquid, it didn't bother me, because I felt full. And when you feel full, you don't want to look elsewhere for food or anything else, because you're satisfied.
And another thing that I thought was really good that you touched on was hair loss. So again, for people having surgery or who considering surgery, hair loss is probably occurs in about 1 in 10 people. And what it simply is it's a shock response it's almost like a stress response. It can happen in pregnancy as well. Your body's concentrating elsewhere, and you might notice that your skin, hair, and nails aren't quite as good as they were. Protein is the key. You can't stop or prevent this happening. You're on all the right supplements already. So it very much comes into play that once your weight loss slows down, which naturally occurs around the 4 to 6 month stage. So we kind of expect from 6 months to 2 years that you'll lose the same as what you did in the first 6 months. So it really does slow right down. But as that happens, you should notice that hair loss stops. And then what you have is like little, I always call them like owly, tufty growth bits coming.
I've got them.
Perfect. And you'll get that regrowth. And then kind of the 2 year mark, you can kind of say, okay, well, this is me, how I am now. And for most people, it perhaps never comes back as thick as it did before. You might sport a shorter hairstyle in the meantime while you're getting that regrowth. Yeah. But it's a good thing that you touched on, because it doesn't happen to everyone, but it's something to be aware of. And a good thing to add into your diet for extra protein at the stage, you know, kind of from that 4 months on, is something like seeds, nuts, but it's got to be portion controlled. So 3 Brazil nuts would be a really good thing to have for hair regrowth as well.
Yeah, I have some nuts every day. I have almonds, walnuts, and cashew nuts, and none of them are salted or anything like that. They're just plain. And I have just a little palm.
Perfect. And it's like a dedicated
8 or 9
snack,
nuts.
and it's just really useful to get a bit of extra protein in and keep that hair growth coming. So that's brilliant. But Michelle, we'll come back to you for sure.
Yeah, thank you.
And we'll hand over to Hannah now. So thanks again, and over to you, Hannah.
So hi, good evening. I'm Hannah and I'm 35 years old. I had my surgery on the 24th of January this year. my weight loss to date is around about, it's strange because when I first started the programme, I was around about 21 stone. But by the time my surgery came, I was just under 19 due to the liver shrinking diet and losing my 5%. So my current weight is 12 stone 3. So I've gone from being a size 24 clothes to just around about a comfortable 14, some 16s in some things, but 14s in most things. Next slide, please. So my journey started in 2006. I was diagnosed with a glioblastoma, so a brain tumour on my pituitary gland. I've always been a bigger girl, but this didn't help with my weight loss because I used to emotionally eat quite a lot. So if I'd had a good round of chemotherapy and I wasn't sick, I would go out and I would eat. If I had a really bad round of chemotherapy and I was sick, my mum would get me ice cream to make me feel better. I'd go to the shop at the Christie and I would get a bag of crisp and a bottle of cherry coke because I was poorly. So, that's what I did. That's how we got treated. So I went to the doctors around about 2017 after my consultant at the Christie basically told me it's time to look after yourself now, Hannah. I've always been a bigger girl, probably around about a size 14, 16 through school, but noticeably the biggest girl in my group. So a lot what Michelle said as well, like yo-yo dieting. I tried everything from the protein shakes, the weight loss shakes, Slimming World, Weight Watchers, crash diets, Atkins diets, tablets from the internet, absolutely everything really. Went through the Lose Weight Feel Great at Lee in Wigan, and then went through the sessions originally at Aintree because it was 2017 when I started. So Aintree had the programme at that time and then got moved over to Salford. So supported throughout by all the nurses, staff and the psychologists. They were brilliant. Things started to move forward and I got the meeting with a consultant and the doctor. And then all of a sudden, as Michelle said again, COVID hit. So I did have a slight gain in COVID, but I was walking daily with my children. I had 2 small children, so we was making sure that we was getting out that hour a day. But it was just comfort eating. It was getting takeaways because it was easier. Couldn't get to the supermarket, so we'd just get a Domino's, that type of thing. Then all of a sudden at Christmas time, I got a phone call just to say, hopefully early next year, you'll be having your surgery. And then in January, I got a phone call at work and I answered it and they said, oh, hi, Hannah, can you start the liver shrinking diet? I said, yeah. When? Now. So they said, we've had a cancellation, sadly, due to COVID, but good for me, really. And I started the liver shrinking diet 12 days before my surgery. So I did miss 2 days, but I really stuck to it with really, really strict on myself. Next one, please. So again, I went on holiday this year for the first time since COVID, since 2018, really. I have got twins, which is there were 6 in summer, 7 now, and a lot of things. Again, what she said, like literally just putting them on your knee and cuddling them and things like that. So this first shot on the left-hand side is in London 2019, and the one on the right-hand side is with my husband this summer. So again, getting on an aeroplane and not having to ask for that extra seat belt, just having clothes that fit you, and again having a bikini for the first time since I was a teenager. And I have had twins, and I have got stretch marks on my stomach, and I have got a bit of a droopy bust, but I'm just like, yeah, look at me now. Next one, please. So these are my downsides that I've chose. So again, hair loss. Now, I have lost quite a lot of hair due to the radiotherapy and the chemotherapy that I had in 2006. So I have got a large part of the back of my hair that has never grown back. So hair loss to me has never really been a problem because I've wore wigs or had hair pieces and things like that. So although it was heartbreaking to lose at the front of my hair, which I never lost before, it wasn't new to me. So hanging and loose skin, I have got a lot, and I have looked into having it removed. And the more I'm looking at it, the more I'm thinking I'm really not bothered. I've been on my holiday and wore a bikini, and I felt more comfortable than I've ever felt in a long, long time. But another downside again is no longer looking forward to a meal. So I was chatting to a friend the other day saying, like, when you used to get excited for a Sunday and like, oh, I can't wait for a Sunday roast. I've lost that. I've lost that relationship with food. Or, oh, should we get a Chinese tonight? Or should we get a pizza? I mean, it's good that I've lost that relationship, but sometimes a little bit socially awkward when my friends are like, oh, do you want to come round for this? And sometimes, now I don't, but at the start I kind of just used to say no. So again, forgetting to eat is a really hard one as well, because you don't feel hungry. I was getting to like at the beginning when I went back to work, I'd get to 2:00 in the afternoon and think, oh, why do I feel a little bit uneasy? And it's because I'd had nothing to eat. But again, I now started putting alarms on my phones and stuff, and I've got a calendar at the side of my desk at work telling me to go and get things. One of my vices was Pepsi Max. I would have it for breakfast, dinner and tea. Fizzy drinks was my absolute love. So to lose that, I was really, really gutted about, because I could give up chocolate and I could give up crisp, but fizzy pop was really my thing. But I've just started now, 9 months later, trying it, and it's horrendous. It gives me the worst burps you can imagine, and I've really not missed it. Iron tablets with toilet problems, they do bung you up. So it's, if you've gone from having quite a poor diet where you go into the toilet quite a lot, this does take sometimes to me 2 or 3 days without. I will finally then go, but then it's 2 or 3 days without again. No alcohol for 9 months. This picture on the right with the stripy top was me 2 weeks ago with one of my first glasses of wine. It was nice, but again, I hadn't missed it. A noisy tummy and winged burping. Luckily, I don't, I don't, whether it's what other people do, but I don't find that I don't pass wind by trumping. It's a lot of burping, but it's usually at really inappropriate times when I'm on a phone to a parent or something at school. I do feel the cold quite a lot. I have got problems with my thyroid, so I was cold anyway, but even more so now. And tablet changes. Unfortunately, I've had to stay on a few of my blood pressure tablets because it is a bit of a family thing, but everything else I've kind of come off. Next one, please. And these are my upsides. So this photo on the left was September last year, the first day at my new job. And the one on the right-hand side, it was September this year. So the upside to me is I now feel great. I'm getting compliments all the time. I feel like I've achieved something. I've proved people wrong. Even people who I love, like my mum and my husband, still was worried about me. Even 2-3 months after my surgery, they were still like, oh, we really hope you can stick at it, Hannah. Wait, no, because they've seen me yo-yo so many times. Got new clothes, lots more new clothes. Shopping in general, so yeah, just little things like not having to go right to the back, not having to order, seeing something in Next and thinking, oh, do they do a 24? I'll have a look online. Much to the disappointment of my husband, now doing a lot more shopping. I feel like I've become a role model for my children. My son did say the other day, and he's 7 years old, and he's very black and white, my son, and they just said, you do look better now, Mummy, that you've not got a fat tummy. I said, oh, that's not very kind. He said, okay, a bulging belly. So like kids notice it. You think that they love you no matter what, but my children really have noticed. I'm more organised now. I've got a lot more room in bed, and I feel a lot more comfortable on an aeroplane. Thank you very, very much.
Oh, Hannah, that was great. Thank you so much. Oh, I hope you enjoyed telling your journey as well. Because it sounds like you've been on a long journey with your health for a long time as well.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people waiting for surgery are the same, aren't they? You've got, it's not just about losing weight, it's how it impacts on so many other conditions as well. So yeah, no, thank you so much for that. So I think what we'll do now is we'll invite everybody else that's had surgery. If they want to be on the panel, you can be on the panel. You can have your picture there. You don't have to have your picture there. So anybody who wants to do that, just stick your hand up and Stevie's going to try and find you. And then we'll go through the Q&As, and there might be some that people want to join in. Michelle, put your camera back on as well, if that's okay.
How do I do that?
It depends what device you're on, doesn't it? Mine is.
It says start video. Is that the one? It says, oh, right.
That'll be it.
That's the one. He's let me do it. There we are.
Brilliant.
Right.
Brilliant. So a big thank you to you both. You're amazing, and it was lovely to hear your stories. And again, I hope you noticed, Hannah, as you were talking, all the love in the room. So that's brilliant.
Right, I'm promoting quite a few people, so they should start. It should come up. Yeah, there we go. It should come up to say accept.
Hannah, I noticed one person did ask what surgery you had.
Yeah, I forgot to write that. So I had a gastric sleeve. Reasons because I was kind of advised to have that done. Luckily, I didn't suffer from acid reflux, so that was the first one. And I also had it through Salford, but at Oakfield in Manchester.
That's right. So the Oaklands Hospital is, we knew what you meant. The Oaklands Hospital is a private provider. So very often the NHS will get private contracts with hospitals that do bariatric surgery, simply so we can get our surgeries done more quickly or have more theatre space that's not always available at Salford, as a lot of people are finding at the moment, especially when you get cancelled, as Michelle did. It's just so heartbreaking, and it's simply because there's no beds in the hospital to put you in. Yeah. So even though people have had these terrible waits, and you think, great, at last I've got my date, and you come in and you sit there all day, and then they come round and it's usually a manager, because everyone wants to cry and say, we're really sorry, we can't do it today, there's just no beds to put you in. And then obviously you're still a priority to try and get you back in, but it's great when we can use hospitals like the Oaklands, because it means that cancellations don't happen in the same way. So we do use that hospital too.
So Jodie, I've promoted or tried to promote everybody. So can I just check everybody here did put the hand up and is happy to speak if they're asked a question and has had surgery? Yeah, lots of nods. Perfect. And I think Stuart's on holiday, so that's some commitment. Thanks, Stuart. Are you on holiday? Looks like he is. Right, I'll get stuck in. One of the questions I've just seen pop up was, were any of you scared to have surgery?
You can do that by a show of hands if you like, panel. You can put up your hand up if you were.
Yeah. If anybody's if anybody's watching on a phone, you might only be able to see 4 of the panel, but if you slide along, you should be able to see more of them. But quite a few people have got the hand up. Oh, it's actually quite split, isn't it?
Yeah, I think some people waited so long they didn't care. So like, just let me have
it. Okay, right. So somebody said, I'm having surgery next week and they're having a sleeve. What's the most important bit of advice that you can give me? So Hannah, I'll go to you first, considering that you've just spoken.
So advice beforehand, just to be organised, really. I'm lucky I've got a husband who's quite organised with his food anyway. I never was. So straight away we got things sorted. We got all my food sorted even before my surgery, so I had them for when I come back. We got a soup maker, which probably broke because we used it that many times. And it's not to rush. When they say 3 to 4 weeks for that first period, 3 to 4 weeks for the second period, don't think, oh, do you know what, I feel all right now. Don't put a crouton in your soup. Don't be tempted to get anything. Stick to it, and you really, really will do well.
Yeah, Hannah's right there. You really do have to stick to it like glue, but be mentally prepared for it as well. You know, keep focused and just say to yourself, this is going to work. And it's not forever, because you do start to reintroduce food and tastes and lumps and, you know, that crunch that you want that you've missed because you're just swallowing liquids for a bit. But it does work. Just make sure you're organised, like she said, with the food, the little bits of soup, you know, your protein shakes, and you won't falter.
Sorry, rookie mistake. I was on mute then. Does anybody else want to come in with any kind of top tips or advice before surgery? Simon, do you want to unmute yourself?
You're still muted. There you are.
Yeah, hello. How you doing?
Hi.
Apologies for any delay. I'm in Lanzarote at the moment in the glorious sunshine.
Raining here, raining heavily.
Good. Food top tip once you come from the puree stage. My go-to food was beans on toast. You got protein, you got crunch, you got fibre. It was just the best thing to eat after the puree stage, and I still go to beans on toast now.
Thanks, Simon.
Yeah, top tip.
So Grace has asked, what type of surgery has everyone had? So do you want to kind of do a 50-50 show of hands, Jodie? You shout them out.
Yeah, so anyone who's had a sleeve? I haven't, but yeah, and then the bypass?
Me.
So there are actually two types of bypass, so we'll be very specific. Let's go with Roux-en-Y gastric bypass. Okay.
Can I just say, is it okay if I say something?
Yeah.
When you go in for your surgery on the day, just be prepared to maybe have something other than the planned surgery that you've had. Because I was supposed to have the bypass, but during surgery I had to have the sleeve due to complications. So just be aware that it does happen.
That's a really good point, Sarah. So when you get sent through like the education videos, they go through the sleeve, the bypass, the single, and the two types of bypass we offer. So don't worry, you're going to get all this information in your journey going forward. And when you meet your surgeon and when you meet the medic, they'll give you their best expertise. And also what you want is absolutely considered. And then sometimes on the day of consent, on the day of surgery, you will be told, look, if there is a technical issue and it's actually easier or safer for us to do a sleeve, which is the simplest of the three procedures, are you happy if that's the option we have to go for? So that's why, like just what Sarah said, be aware of all the surgeries, because if a Roux-en-Y gastric bypass, it was something that you were hoping to have, then you don't really want to feel disappointed if you've had a sleeve, because a sleeve is an excellent surgery. It really
has been excellent for me. I'm only 6 weeks post-op as well.
Oh, Sarah, it's so good that you joined us tonight.
I know I was a bit late because I've been at work, but I'm only 6 weeks post-op, and I have had the sleeve, and I'm not disappointed that I had to have it changed because it's been no different. But I just wanted to say that it can happen, and it did happen to me. So.
Thanks, Sarah. That's brilliant. Hannah, there's a question for you. You said that you don't get enjoyment or excitement from food anymore. Have you replaced it with anything else?
No, not at all. So I am starting to get it back again now. My husband looked at me when I said that because he was sat across from me. So I've not got that go-to, or we'll have a Chinese because I feel like we're having one tonight. So that enjoyment that I used to get out of food, I've lost, but it's not a loss to me, if that makes sense. So we have started now, we go to, you've probably heard of pesto, which is little tapas. So if we are going out for tea, we'll go to somewhere like that. It is quite rich, the food. So we go to El Ghetto Negro quite a bit in Manchester if we are eating out, or we'll go to pesto because they are tapas. So I can have like one dish when my husband can sit and have 3 or 4, but I feel like I'm still having it. So I have lost that enjoyment of looking forward to something, but I'm not missing it, if that makes. I've lost it, but I'm not missing it, if that makes sense.
I can completely agree with that as well.
Yeah.
Because it's surprising how little that you can eat, and I do agree that you've lost the enjoyment out of food, but I've still not let it stop me.
Yeah.
In the same way, but I see where you're coming from on that respect.
I think it's because I will admit I was quite greedy as well. So like a Christmas dinner to me was like piled up, and then I'd have a Yorkshire pudding, and like when I was that full, I'd undo my trousers and I'd make sure I could get it in. Where now I'm full. If I've had 2 potatoes and a piece of beef, then that's what I've had, and it's kind of just getting used to that. So I think I thought I was going to miss it more than I did. But now I'm kind of like, well, look at me. I'm not vain in any way, shape or form, but I'm happy with myself.
That starts straight away as well. I don't know how far you are into it, but it does start straight away, that.
Yeah, that's why I'm in January, so I'm 9 months in now.
Can I ask a question?
Of course you can.
Right, okay, so I want to say am I there? Right. It's brilliant hearing all this stories about everybody. I had my bypass 10 years ago, and I lost 15 stone, but 3 stone of about 1.5 stone was with loose skin, because I've had surgery to get rid of the loose skin. But over the last 3 years, I'm starting to gain again a little bit. I still don't eat much. I don't drink afterwards. I still really struggle. So I've been speaking so I'm on the ABL program again to see if there's anything that can help with a revision, because I have had no support. When I had my bypass 10 years ago, there was nothing. I just had it, and that was you was left. So I don't want to sound really bad to anybody else, but that's what my experience was.
So sorry, Sandy, if you don't mind me asking, and thanks for sharing that, because I think it is only a tool, and I think and I think also we've talked in the post-op support group a few times about the fear of weight gain, and we know that there is a natural weight gain at that sort of 2 year stage, and we know that most people at 10 years have kept at least 10 BMI points off from when they had their original surgery. And I think if weight gain is slipping back in, you're quite analytical of your food, because you know what you can have, you know what your limits are. You've kind of taught it's a good idea to keep food diaries, food, drink, exercise, those kind of things, because a driving factor, once you kind of got your portion size and your food, is then looking at your kind of exercise and everything. That we know that when you've got weight, it's very annoying when people tell you just eat better and exercise, you'll lose weight. It doesn't happen when you're obese. But once you've had weight loss, it's kind of that exercise can kickstart more weight loss going down the road. So you're under ABL now, are you? As just kind of everything again. With a sleeve gastrectomy, some patients on the NHS, when they come to meet us, might have an extremely high BMI. So they might have a BMI of, say, 70. And it would be very difficult for our surgeons to do a room-wide bypass, even though we feel that would be the most beneficial surgery for somebody who's very overweight. So they sometimes get funded for a 2-stage surgery, sleeve to room-wide bypass.
Yeah.
Beyond a bypass, on the NHS, there isn't anything else that gets revised to. So that's something that perhaps you need to kind of explore as well, because as far as I'm aware, there isn't any kind of revision of a bypass as such.
Yeah.
I'm aware of.
Yeah, because I did get it on the NHS, but I've paid private to have all my skin removal, which was
and everyone has to. It's still very hard to get skin removal on the NHS, but we are trying to do things about that. We always have been, and I feel like we do have a plastics team at Salford now. We do talk to our We've Insured team as well that do plastic surgery. We're just trying to find funded routes for the most extreme cases, because for some people, depending where they're starting from, it's very hard. So for some people, it's just that body image change, and then having excess skin is really quite distressing. For some people, they can't walk easily, or they're getting recurrent infections and so on. So it's quite difficult to get weight loss surgery routinely from the NHS.
Yeah. So I just want to say, because I'm quite willing to pay to have some sort of revision or whatever it is, because it's all good. I mean, I lost 15 stone with the skin removal and everything, but I just don't want. I'm scared that it's creeping back up again, and it is. And I'm doing everything that I should. I'm at work and I do 15,000 steps a shift, maybe more. And I'm going to work in a minute on night shifts, and you're just walking all the time. You just can't do anything about it. So it's not as if I'm just sat on my derriere all day.
Absolutely. And I think
at the end of it, really, I'm thinking, you've done all this, I've done all the hard work, feel great, and now I'm starting to feel like I did before I had my surgery.
Andy, I'll call you tomorrow if you're available. Not early because you're obviously working a night shift, but I'll drop you an email and you can let me know when you're free and I'll call you and we can have a chat. All right.
Yeah, thank you.
No problem. Thanks for sharing that. I think often we don't see that longer term impact, do we? So that's really, really helpful for the group. Thank you. So one of the next questions is, has anyone experienced any surgical complications or infections post-surgery? I think that's something that lots of people worry about, so I'd be intrigued to hear from the group.
I did.
Who was that one?
Me.
Sarah, yeah, are you happy to share anything about
this wasn't post-surgery. This was during surgery. I had a bleed from my liver at the same time as they was doing the surgery. So obviously they did really good. The team were fantastic who did the operation. I think that's why I had to have the sleeve. That was because my liver had not shrunk enough, even though I'd done everything I possibly could, but it was still very big. So I had a bleed from my liver. I did stay a little bit longer than normal in hospital just to check on my blood count to make sure that I didn't need to have a transfusion or something. But luckily I didn't. Everything went well afterwards. But yeah, it can happen during surgery. But the team are very good. So don't worry too much because they looked after me and I was absolutely fine.
Thanks, Sarah. Has anybody else got anything they want to add there?
Yeah, sorry. Hello, everyone. Yeah, my name is Ola. So I had my surgery I had my surgery back in May this year, and after the surgery, I was vomiting blood, and then it started very small, and then it was constant. And then I kept complaining that why am I vomiting blood? So I was told that, oh, this is normal. It's just like the leftover blood from the operation. But the volume kept increasing, and it kept becoming more painful. And because it was like becoming clots inside of me, and to come out was very, very difficult. And normally it's very difficult to get blood out of me. So they were trying to like get me to have a blood test, but they couldn't get blood out of me, but I was vomiting blood. Eventually, they were able to take a tiny bit of blood from me to do a blood test. And that was when they discovered that my hemoglobin level was very low. And then they had to now like trigger like emergency. So I had blood transfusion, and I was transferred from the private hospital. I did mine in Auckland. So I was transferred from Auckland to Salford Royal. So when I got to Salford Royal as well, emergency, I vomited. So then I had to be operated on again. So, which was the following day after my surgery. And then they discovered that there was some opening that wasn't stitched properly. And then afterwards, I was in intensive care for like a day or so or two. And I was fine, to be honest, after that. But it was a very scary experience, I must say. And that was one of the things that I was worried that before the surgery, that I hope everything goes well. But apart from that, it was, it's been a lovely journey. And for me, I've just been telling myself, I've had an operation in my stomach. I've not had an operation in my brain. So I'm constantly telling my brain that, you need to have a different relationship with food, which I think I get it. My brain gets it now. And the relationship I have with food is different now. It's not like someone mentioned, sorry, I don't know the name, but someone mentioned that she doesn't get excited about like food, like going to the restaurant. I feel the same way as well, because there's only very little that I can eat. And initially, the first time I went to the restaurant with my husband, I ordered like I would normally order, but I knew that I wasn't going to eat it, but I would be able to pack it to take it home. But now when I go to restaurants, I would either order like a food child portion, or tell my husband or eat out of other people's portion, because there's no point. I'm just going to waste money ordering a full-size portion. But it's been a lovely experience. But my challenge is, and I don't know how other people are coping, is drinking water. Before the surgery, I've always loved drinking water, but before the surgery, I can open a 500 ml of bottle and just gulp it down immediately. But now I can't do that. And it's really affecting my water consumption because I'm not happy. I don't want my kidney to be messed up as a result of not drinking enough water. So that's where I'm really, really struggling with, is the water consumption. Because the fact that I still haven't been able to train my brain that just keep sipping. You can't gulp a bottle at once. So that's me done.
Oh, thanks, Ola, because that's quite an experience you had. So I'm really glad that you shared that with the group. It's really difficult when you have a complication, especially one where you're having to be transferred and it all seems a bit urgent. Unfortunately, there can be complications in surgery. Less than 3% of patients nationally would experience a bleed after. And it could be a bleed where, it can be resolved quite easily with medications, maybe a transfusion. And sometimes they do have to take people back to theatre, mainly because if there's been big clots, they just want to, for want of a better word, just hoover you out so everything heals beautifully as it should be in the first place. And obviously you're doing really well now. I liked the fact that you brought up water too, because it's true, you can never just pick up a drink when you're thirsty and knock it back again. What part of the retraining after surgery is trying to never be thirsty. I think I'd be rubbish at this. I'm always thirsty. I'm always talking too much. So it is difficult. I always kind of, one of the biggest things, and probably everyone's heard me say, is ice lollies, mess around with your temperatures. Water at first can for some people just feel quite hard, and they're sipping it and it doesn't go down easily. So messing around with flavors, temperature in the early days is really key as well. So an ice lolly, especially if you make it yourself, ideally a frozen yogurt, because that will be a protein ice lolly then. It forces you to take the time you need with fluids at the beginning, and then it's getting in your head, whether it's setting alarms on your phone or whatever it is, to be sipping in between meals all the time. Your Christmas list should be full of lovely thermoses and beautiful drinking bottles, whatever, and that you have strategically around the place at your desk, in your car, and so on. Because it is difficult. It is difficult. I think that's one of the hardest things. You never had to think about this before. You were weaned by your parents. Now you have to wean that in your stomach.
Always have a water bottle with you. Always.
Thanks, everyone. So a question that I think a lot of people want the answer to is, how long on average did you spend in hospital? And then secondary to that, and then how long did you have off work post-surgery?
I had 3 days in hospital, and I booked 2 weeks off work, but I probably could have gone back because I only do like a sitting down job. I'm a receptionist, so I probably could have gone back, but I did stick to the 2 week and went back after the 2 week. But I wouldn't recommend anything like if you've got a physical job or anything like that. It's definitely a no.
Thanks, Sarah. Anybody else?
So,
Karen, do you want to share?
So I stayed overnight in hospital. So one night and then I was home. I'm a student nurse. So I had 2 weeks off. I was at placement, just started placement at the time of surgery. So I had 2 weeks off placement, but then I couldn't miss any more because as a student nurse, unfortunately, we have to make the hours up. No matter what, I have to do them. So what we did a risk assessment, and I did short hours for the first week, a little bit longer for the second week, and built up to full-blown long days after that. But I had to have 2 weeks off. There was no way I could have done anything more.
From the hospital, the doctor will sign you off for 2 to 3 weeks, and then depending on how you're feeling and the type of work you have, your GP would sign you off for longer, or you do a phased return, and you may be on light duties, depending on the type of job you have.
Emma, did you want to
go on, Emma? What did you say?
I sort of looked at it because everyone
I was speaking to and looking at was all the same. It was, most people 2 weeks. If you're doing a non-physical job, you might need longer if it wasn't. But I do digital marketing, so I sit most of the day. But I work for myself, and I only gave all my clients 2 weeks. Sort of, I'm going to be off for 2 weeks. And I'll be honest, 6 weeks later, I was still struggling. And it wasn't a physical struggling. It was a mental one. I just really struggled to focus. And so some more mundane tasks I could get on with and just, have them taken over. But some of the aspects of my job are quite creative, and a lot of thought goes into them. And I had no choice. I had no chance of it. So I do think, I wouldn't, my advice for anyone would be, don't just take it as being physical or non-physical, because I think you know yourself. And a part of it for me as well was the combination that after the surgery, I have ADHD, and I wasn't taking the medication for a few weeks because I thought I don't need to focus as much. And I sort of struggled getting back onto the medication because of the break. And then obviously the way the medication was working meant I was either not having it or feeling like I was high. So I couldn't get the combination right. So some of that would have added a little bit to it, but I think you've definitely got to look at your own circumstances and your own job and your own sort of mental health side of things to know how long to take off. And I would honestly advise anybody take as long as you're offered, and then if you've got the option to go back and you want to, you could. But
I was also told that not to wear a seatbelt for 2 weeks as well. So if you had to drive to work or you had a driving job, then it was a no-no. Because the tension of the seat.
I was told when I could do emergency stop, I could have put my seatbelt back on.
To be fair, most people go home from hospital in a car. And I guess that the reason sometimes we talk about seatbelts is because your seatbelt goes right across your chest, across where your surgical site is. And if you're in an accident or having to do an emergency stop, then we would say risk assess your car journeys. People don't normally drive till 2 to 3 weeks after surgery, but as a passenger, you could be that anytime. So it's risk assessing. Do you really need to do that trip? That kind of thing. So yeah, it's a good point that Michelle's where those seatbelts sit. But like I say, there's not many people who don't go home in a car from hospital.
So somebody's asked, this absolutely isn't a random question. I think this is a great question. But ladies, have you had any issues with your menstrual cycle post-op?
I'm still unmuted, so I'll just jump in first. I got the implant put in just before. I'd been on it years ago, and then I got it put back in, and everything's been fine.
Yeah, one of the reasons I had surgery, because the tumour that I had when I was younger was on my pituitary gland. I've had a lot of hormonal imbalances anyway, so they always thought I would go through an early menopause. So they did look at kind of at the beginning rushing me through as a high priority, because I was due to have a hysterectomy due to the blood loss that I was getting due to my cancer a while ago. But then since I had my surgery, so I've not had a period for such a long time, and then I had my surgery on the Monday and I started my period on the Wednesday, and it's been typical as like the 4 days, 28 days off, 4 days. And I've never had that from being a young girl. So literally within 2 days, my hormones just kicked back in and everything went back to how it was when I was an early teen.
That's fabulous. And that's warning to everybody. When you go back into a normal menstrual cycle, anyone of childbearing age or would like to consider themselves of childbearing age, that's the 40 to 50 age group, you could become more fertile and you could get caught out. So contraception is definitely something you need to think about as well.
Like Jodie's tagline at these meetings. Okay, so there's a question here actually. Has anyone previously been had a band in situ, had that removed and converted to a bypass? This person's waiting to have that kind of surgery. So has anybody got any experience of that? Many shake heads. Jo, did you want to say anything on that one?
No, it's not unheard of. We know that there was a period when gastric bands became quite fashionable. Lots of people had them in, and I think at one point the statistic was that maybe 2 out of 10 had a good result from their bands. We've had a lot of unsafe bands, far too tight, in for a long time tight, and then making changes to the anatomy that's not good and needing them taken out and so on. So there's lots of things around gastric bands, which is why our service rarely ever do a gastric band. So when people have had a band and for whatever reasons it's failed, which is quite common, they've had it removed and then they've done their weight management and they've got the funded for the NHS weight loss, then really there's no concerns. Our surgeons are really experienced, so they'll have come across that kind of anatomy before that, and they won't be phased at all.
Thanks, Jodie. So Stuart, this is probably your cue to jump in. So somebody's asked, can you still do normal exercise after the surgery?
Right, yeah, I do. So for me, I do bicycle riding, whether it be in my shed or just out on my bike. I do roughly about 200 miles a week. I think you'll find once you've had the operation, in my case, I was looking, when I'd had the operation, I thought to myself, well, do you know what? My knees were bad and a lot of you will be suffering from that. And literally 90% of it would just be down to your weight. My intentions were, when I got to the end of my weight loss surgery, and I've lost all my weight, was to go and get my knees done on the booper through work. I don't need it doing. Losing the weight was enough to get rid of that. My knees are absolutely fantastic now. I am, as they said, I'm on holiday. I'm in Fuerteventura, so I'm not far from the guy who was speaking earlier. Going off a few things that we said earlier, putting the seatbelt on the plane, that's just an absolutely fantastic feeling. I walk around here, so I'm doing about 10k every day at Fuerteventura, just having to walk around. My fitness is absolutely superb now. The things that operation does for you is just marvellous in all respects, in getting rid of all your tablets, upgrading your fitness, changing your lifestyle, changing the way you're eating. It's just absolutely superb. And I can't thank everybody enough for what I've gone through. I'm now 3.5 years in. I know somebody was saying about putting weight on again. Yes, you have to be careful. I don't eat a lot. And even though you don't eat a lot, you can still put weight on, but the fitness helps. So, yeah, fitness comes quite easy. I love walking now. Before, if I went for a walk, it was like, how long is it till I get to the end journey? You're just looking at that all the time, thinking, as soon as I get there, now it's like, I just keep walking. So, yeah, fitness comes back, and it comes back good style. And I'm enjoying it. I wouldn't have done that before.
Can I add something to that?
Of course you can, Sarah.
Just because I'm very recent as well, I would just like to say I do a lot of walking now. I walk at least 2 miles a day. I would never have been able to do that before. Yes, I still get some aches and pains, but they're nowhere near as bad as they were. And that's just through the weight loss that I've already had. So you can pretty much straight away start doing exercise, as in walking, just like I have. I'm like I said, I'm only 6 weeks down, and I'll walk anywhere. I walk to work. I walk my mum's dog. Everything that I can possibly do. And I've even joined the gym this week to start getting into doing some more proper exercises. But up until now, it has just been walking so much.
I think that's it, isn't it? It's the feeling you get when you feel you can do more. So it is
amazing.
Yeah, it is a major surgery, and everybody will react different to that. So for some people, they really feel very tired for quite a while, and it can take a while for that peak of energy to come, and then they're like, oh, okay, right, now I'm going to put myself first, and there's the things that I didn't perhaps have confidence in, or things that I would like to do, just going to go for it. And that's a lovely thing. And I think sometimes that where you may fall out of love with food for a little while, and it's really important you do get that healthy social relationship back with food. And I think that comes with time, to be honest. Because in the meantime, if you can do things for your mental health that are around walking, well-being, crafting, exercise is a big bonus, because it's that future push for your weight maintenance, then you've absolutely cracked it.
You will really enjoy seeing the difference. That's why even today, when it was absolutely pouring down with rain, I still wanted to walk as much as I did when it's lovely and nice, because it feels so good to not feel the way I did before the surgery. So enjoy it. Don't be worried. Enjoy the feeling.
Can I just add? I used to get terrified when I'd see a set of stairs or a hill, and now I can't. Well, I don't run up them, because that's just too. I don't do running, but I get up there. I'm not short of breath. And but a month ago, I went to Switzerland for a holiday, and I walked 6 miles through a vineyard up and down, and it didn't affect me, and it was amazing, which I'd never have done.
Amazing, thanks, Terry. So I think probably something again that lots of people will be thinking before surgery: is it painful? Was it painful? Well, somebody said during surgery. I'm hoping you're asleep when you're having your surgery, so it won't be painful then. But before or after, do you experience any pain?
Yes.
I'm
sorry, I don't want to scare people, but I won't sugarcoat it either. It is painful, and it is for a bit after surgery as well, but it's well worthwhile.
Can I just add, the gas pain is real.
Oh my God, yes.
I can't even explain that gas pain. It's unbearable.
I couldn't agree more with that one.
David,
that hurt me then, Finger. That hurt. The gas pain hurt me more than my tummy pain at times.
When you say gas pain, people maybe think gas just around the stomach. Do you mean gas around your body, like trapped wind? Is that what you mean?
Shoulder.
Right.
Yeah, I got it in my shoulder really bad.
Your chest.
Really bad.
Yeah.
So when you have
So
when you have laparoscopic surgery, we make the incisions in your abdomen. There's usually about 5, sometimes 6. We blow up your abdomen with a carbon dioxide gas. This is because that will give your surgeon the visual field he needs to get up to whereabouts your surgery is, because there's lots going on in that area. So it just allows us to do the surgery that more safely. And I've watched many a surgery, and at the end of surgery, those little wounds, it just literally, the air just goes through them, but nobody leaps on you to try and make sure that every last bit of gas is out of there. So for some people, they don't get any. For other people, it tends to be, it's a weird sort of nerve matrix. So it tends to settle lower down in your tummy, so not near where your surgery is. But you don't really feel it there. You feel it your nerve matrix works in an X. So if it's right abdomen, it will go to your left shoulder tip or collar. And you're like, what is this? Why am I getting this pain? So I think right at the beginning, the question was, I'm having surgery next week. What's your top tip? From a nurse's perspective, move as much as you can, even if that's picking up your knees, twiddling your ankles. Even this movement here, whilst laying in bed, has been shown to increase gut motility. What we want is that gas to precipitate through into your bowel and you fart it out. So you tend to find at first you're quite burpy because you're all swollen. And then I'm always a bit of a joker, but I love it when people tell me they're passing wind, because I'm like, great, we're on the recovery road. Things are going the right way. Things are going to get easier for you. I've spoke to a patient before, had surgery 2 days ago, and he's like, "Are you sure you've done it? Other than a bruise on my stomach around one of the wounds, I just don't feel anything. I'm absolutely fine." So I do get a lot of patients that just don't really feel anything. We prepare you for the worst. Some people are going to feel it more than others. We all have very different pain thresholds. This is nothing to do with being soft or hard or all that silliness. It's very real. So for some of us, we feel pain differently to others.
Yeah, can I say something? When I had mine done, I had a little bit of gas and that pain, so I understand that, but I didn't have it tremendously. Obviously, I was sore on my tummy where I had 7 incisions, but I had to sleep up in bed, propped up in bed slightly because I couldn't lie down. I couldn't lie on my left-hand side for about 2 weeks. The pull was tremendous. So I had to either sit up or lie slightly back and just slightly to the right so it didn't pull on the left-hand side. Other than that, I felt great.
Perspectives there. So another question that I think again is really, really worthwhile picking up. Is there a counsellor to talk to if needed? So Jodie, you might be best answering that, and then maybe other people jumping in afterwards.
I have to say, I think psychology is really underplayed in these surgeries. I think that the resources in this country are really poor anyway for any mental health issues. In bariatric surgery, we have a psychologist who does assessments that last about an hour and a half. It's not to catch you out, it's to talk about your journey through where you were, where you are now, where you're going to be, and it's kind of really preparing you with sort of a mental toolkit and just really assessing that you're in a good place to have surgery as well. In the time that you are in your tier 3 weight management services, and for those that have joined these sessions many a time, I always say it, please take advantage of any psychology that is available because it's so hard to get after surgery. If there are concerns, we'll refer back to our psychologists. But again, it's like there's a big funding web. So sometimes it will be depending on what the need is. It'll be that you need to have access to that for your GP in the community, or it might be something that our psychologists could do some sessions with. But it's definitely not as available as I'd like it to be. However, the unique thing is before surgery, you should all have psychology access in your tier 3 weight management services. So even if you think, no, I'm kind of all right, just think, I am kind of all right, but I'll go along, I'll see, I'll explore that, because you won't get those opportunities again.
I can't stress that enough about accessing the psych support in your tier 3 service. So we have lots of clients or patients that don't feel they want surgery, but then they might, when we go to refer them, we might have to say, we recommend this person have some psychological support or screening before they have their surgery. And that's us doing our job as that gatekeeper, making sure you do get all of the care that you need when we pass you over. But the waiting list in our tier 3 services is much smaller than if you had to go and wait on the NHS. So take every single session that you're offered and work with it, because it's not just about changing your habits. I think somebody said before, they had to train their mind to make these changes as well. So that's what that part of the service is for. So snap people's hands off if you're offered it. I don't know if anybody has experienced that support. Does anybody want to share? Sarah?
Yeah, I don't mean this in a bad way at all. I don't think I really was, in a way, well, I don't know whether anybody is, but mentally prepared to change my eating habits. And I did get support. But I feel that once I've had the surgery, mentally, I've quickly adapted. So in regards to things like thinking fizzy pop, I wasn't prepared to give that up at all. Now, I don't touch it because, for one thing, I don't like how it feels when I have it. And it just seems to be, in my head, a wrong thing to do. So I'm finding it, as I'm going along, my mentally is changing towards food more than it was before the surgery.
Stuart's the one to talk about fizzy drinks.
Fizzy drinks, oh no. I mean, I just don't have them now at all. So, and before I just wasn't ready to give them up, but now I'm not even bothered, to be fair, about having them.
Has anybody experienced the therapy? Sorry, I don't know if my internet's gone a bit dodgy. Has anybody experienced the therapy that would be happy to share, or has anybody had any experience in that area? Simon?
Yeah. Well, basically, I had the post-surgery sessions with my counsellor. It was disappointing because I started opening up about things that happened in my childhood, and she all of a sudden had to move a car, and then she came back with about 2 minutes of the session to go, and she went, "Oh, that's all we've got time for now." So that was the end of the session. I just felt comfortable to open up, and she sort of shut me down. I firmly believe that I would have benefited more from psychological input after surgery rather than before, for the simple reason it's not about training your mind or anything like that. I use my weight as a shield or a mask. I would hide behind myself. I would say something worse to anybody than they would say to me. So I get that in first, and it was just a coping mechanism. I lost 19 stone very quickly, and I had nowhere to hide, and that was when things sort of came flooding back, and I could really have done with psychological input. Luckily, my wife is a speech and language therapist, and she also has a degree in psychology. She's just started on the track for this surgery, but she helped me through it. If I hadn't have had her, I don't know where I would be. So, a bit before and a bit after is my advice for going forward for the NHS.
Thanks, Simon. Thanks for sharing. So, is anybody vegetarian?
Charlie, I agree with all that.
Sorry, Sandy. I cut you off there. Sorry, Sandy. Were you trying to speak there? I'll move on. I'm not sure you can hear me. So the next question was, is anybody veggie? Charlene said she's veggie and she's worried about how to get enough protein in. David?
Yeah, well, pulses and all this sort of thing. Cheeses. You can get vegetarian cheese and everything. But it is a slow job, but it's okay.
Do you know what Chris might suggest there, Jodie?
So yeah, I think anyone who's a vegetarian is straight away aware that protein is something they have to find when they're making that choice in their life. So it's concentrating again on trying to reach that 60 to 80 grams of protein a day. And there's lots of ways. So just like David said, lentils, pulses, chickpeas, butter beans, nuts, seeds, linseeds, flax seeds, and I could go on and on. So there's lots and lots of things out there that vegetarians are probably better with their protein intake sometimes than those that haven't tried to think about protein before in their diets. Cheese is a good one. A matchbox portion of cheese is absolutely acceptable in a day. All your dairy products also carry protein. So yeah, it's not an undoable thing at all. So no, I wouldn't worry about having this surgery and being a vegetarian. Go on, Hannah.
I do eat meat, but very, very little. I do like red meat, so I try to keep away from that. But I find it easier to get my protein intake, like you just said, because I have protein pancakes in the morning. I know I've had that much. And then of a night time, I feel like I've not had enough. I have peanut butter and an apple, and that's my treat. That's my sweet treat of a night. So I have that anyway, and then whatever I can get in then is a bonus for me. But I always try and make sure I get that at least in, because I'm not a massive. I do eat meat, and I will eat meat when I'm out, but I'm not a massive meat eater, so I look elsewhere for my protein.
Thanks, Hannah. I'm just trying to find questions that we've not kind of gone through first. Oh, somebody asked, I can't find the question, but somebody asked earlier, they said, sorry if it's too personal of a question, but they have PCOS, and they were wondering if any ladies had PCOS and their symptoms had improved following surgery. No? Jodie, do you want to say anything around that?
Yeah, so no, PCOS, PCOS, these are things that we expect to improve. A lot of people may come to us with infertility problems, and that may be due to PCOS. So usually with weight loss, things like that can improve. So you just, again, if you're having your weight loss surgery because you want to improve your fertility, then you need to wait ideally 12 to 24 months before trying to conceive, just to give yourself a chance to wean back to a full healthy diet, meet your demands, because very often people who have PCOS, though they see improvement, are also thinking about fertility. So that's why I just touched on that as well.
Sorry, somebody else has asked, how do they determine how many incisions you have when you have surgery?
They will aim for 5. And if they can't get in where they want to get in, and they think it's be more useful to put another one here or there, they will. I wish I could give you a more technical reason, but I think that makes sense. Sometimes if somebody's a lot larger, and it sounds silly saying that, doesn't it? Because we all carry weight in very different ways. So if you're a pear shape, then you tend to find that all your weight stretches down a bit. So it's not so difficult for our surgeons trying to get where they need to go. If you're the sort of person where your weight is all out front, then that can cause a little bit more of a problem for our surgeons advancing their toolkit. So they might now and then find that they need to do incision somewhere else to try and get to where they're going. But in the majority of cases, it will be 5 incisions. But I think, Michelle, you told us 7, didn't you? I've seen 6 quite a lot.
Yeah, I had 7, yeah. That's because I'd done my liver reduction diet for 2 weeks, then it got cancelled. And then I just stepped kind of normally until a week later, but then I only had 6 days till it was done. And because I didn't do the full 2 weeks, my liver was still a little bit enlarged. So they had to put 2 more incisions in to move my liver over. That's why it's 7.
Yeah, so when we talk about where we do our bariatric surgery, I always describe it as being like kind of mid-bra line, so where your sternum is a little bit below there. That's where we're trying to get to. And there's a lot going on in that area. And I always wonder how it all fits into that little thoracic region. And your liver is the size of a rugby ball. And if you have fatty liver already, then it's a big rugby ball. But if everyone can kind of recall what a liver looks like, it's sort of squishy, isn't it, in texture. When we do the liver reduction diet, we're aiming for the fluid within that liver, and it just kind of shrinks it out of the way a little bit, making it easier and safer for us to proceed. But our experienced surgeons, they don't want to open and close you because your liver's too large. They will do whatever they feel is safe. We do get that now and then, unfortunately, but most of the time we don't. We've managed to do a surgery.
That's what
it might be the sleeve. Yeah, it might be the sleeve.
Sorry, Jodie.
You could have been. No, you could have been religious, Sarah, with your liver reduction, but if you already have fatty liver, it can be difficult anyway.
Which I did have, and I think that's why I have 7 incisions, and possibly why I had the bleed on the liver, because it was so big. But obviously, they did everything that they could, and they did amazingly, because I've still had the surgery.
Yeah, liver retractors as a piece of equipment. I hope this isn't sort of grossing anyone out. They're very large and smooth because, again, the liver's really squishy, so we don't want things to sort of slice into it. So that's why sometimes if it's very big and we're trying to move it, you can get these nicks, and we're quite, again, experienced in sorting that out. But yeah, it's rare, but that is part of the design of the liver reduction diet. It's just, again, to try and make it as safe and as quick as possible for you guys while you're under and have it in the hands of our surgeons.
Sandy, are you still with us?
Yeah, I am, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if you mind sharing, but somebody's asked how much did you pay for your skin removal surgery?
Okay, I had mine done about 7 years ago now. But I was one of the first bariatric patients at St Hugh's in Grimsby. And they did me a quite good deal, to be fair. I had a fleur-de-lis, which is like all of your skin removal, and then it does all your muscles back at the top. You know, when you've had babies and stuff, it stretches. So I had a fleur-de-lis, and then I had like an uplift because I had boobs to the floor. But so I had an uplift, and that was, I think I paid like 11,000 for that. And then I had my arms, my legs, and the back of my back done, the flangey bits. So I had like 2 sittings, but it would have cost a lot more. And all in all, I think I paid about 24,000.
Thanks for sharing that, Sandy, because I don't know if you saw the one. Does anyone remember when we had Liam Hennigan do a talk? He was quite a young gentleman. He talked not so long ago. So he had a very large BMI. He's come right down. He's got a lot of excess skin, and he actually did a talk. And I remember him saying, you could literally lift my tummy out and roll it out like a pizza. And I thought that's an image that stays with you, isn't it? And I think everyone was really relating to it who's had excess skin.
Yeah.
And he's a very young man, and he's now at university. He's trying to meet people. He wants to try and find his life partner, and he doesn't mind me sharing all this because this is what he's put in his talks anyway. So he's gone away and he's tried to find something very similar to what you've just described, Sandy. So not just a tummy tuck, a more extensive arms and right round, so that full 360. And I think he's been quoted around 25 to 30,000 pounds. So when you're a young man and you're trying to save to get a house in this country, start your career, it's a huge amount of money, isn't it, for anybody anyway? So these are the realities, and the NHS in all aspects, and especially for women's health and bariatric surgery, is lacking, definitely. I'd love to say I totally agree with what you said, Simon, before, I think, and what Sarah was touching on, that once you've actually had the surgery, other things come to play. And it would be really great if we had more psychological support available after. But for our whole service, we have one psychologist.
This is what I was talking about.
And they won't give us more money for more. They won't give us more for more nurses. They won't give us more. It's just a really difficult time working in the NHS, and I think everyone would agree with that. And
to be fair, Jodie, to be fair, I think it wasn't a person from Salford Royal, a psychologist from Salford Royal. I was under. It was a company that did it before ABL. And they sourced one near my home, and they just weren't very good. So,
Oakwood House.
I don't want anybody to worry about you guys.
But I think that's the other thing, though, with psychology. There's a lot that goes to it, and also often it's how you gel with another person when it comes to that therapist as well, and that psychologist. So, it's not really even always the psychologist's fault, but that if that relationship's not built, then it's not always going to be useful either. So there's lots of elements to it, isn't it, that can be difficult. And I guess that's why hindsight can be a wonderful thing. And I think we do these sessions, and especially the patient experience sessions, because it gives you a depth and an insight about life after surgery, the good, the bad things, and things you can take on board right now to sort of think, right, okay, so how would I address that? how would I feel about that? What is my support network like? And I don't like talking about things that kind of put things on a downer, but we have to, because we have to be realistic. But actually, the divorce rate in post-bariatric patients is higher than that of the population. So the new you can bring highs and lows, and that could be great, being out there again, but that can be a really hard thing as well. Life never throws us one thing at a time to deal with. So there can be lots of positives, and it's a definite journey. So thank you everyone who's joined the panel tonight and who's spoken tonight, because it is wonderful for the benefits you've had, but it's also so valuable sharing your experiences, warts and all.
Thanks everyone. I think we'll kind of wrap up and just get our admin bits out there. So I've posted in the chat just our short survey that'd be really helpful if you could fill in, just to help us kind of pitch the sessions and see what we can put on, what will support you the most. There's also a link to a bariatric support group that I kind of facilitate, but that's just for peer support. So you guys can have a chat on there, and I'll only ever step in if there's anything that's really unfactual or anything that's a bit mean, and I might remove it. But generally, it's a really supportive group for people to go and chat on. Stuart's on there as well, so he'll often answer some questions and stuff for people. And I think there's a few other people that are. Jodie, final question. I know we can't really give any definitive answers, but there's maybe 500 questions asking about waiting time, so I feel that I can't ignore it.
And I'm afraid at the moment there isn't any update from what I said last month. We still have a 12-month plus waiting time from referral to meeting our team, which is why these sessions are useful, just so you don't feel completely out there on your own. And time from meeting our team to surgery is still not something that our service managers are easily giving me information on. So I find that a little bit frustrating, because I keep saying, well, you come to the support group and update everyone. So I'd love to say, oh, it's only 12 months or it's 8 months. I think because it's quite a large service, because private sector have their own criterias for people that would qualify to have their surgery there rather than at a main centre, then the waiting time is quite difficult. But I've said it quite a few times, haven't I, that kind of once you're in tier 3, think to yourself, well, it could be a good 3 years until I'm having bariatric surgery. So it's how you use that time.
And then just to touch on kind of waiting times, there are quite a few of you that are supported by the ABL that are in Lincolnshire, and your surgery site will be Castle Hill. So the waiting times for that centre are different. I've not had an update recently from the team there, so I'll have a chat with them and give you an update next month. And I think there's been a few questions about travel. If you live in Lincolnshire, you don't have to travel to Salford for your surgery. It'll be done at Castle Hill, so don't worry about that. I'm sorry I didn't make that clear at the beginning of the session. But thanks for your time, everyone. I think your sharing your stories has been so valuable. A massive thanks to Michelle and Hannah. It takes a lot of courage to sit in front of 260 people and tell them your story. So just know that everybody appreciates it so much, and it really does make their journey. But have a lovely month, guys, and we'll see you next month.